I have been reading up about confluent love, which is a concept in sociology that was proposed by Anthony Giddens. It basically says that as compared to traditional romantic love, which was based on just a single person who was like the ideal partner, confluent love, on the other hand, is about the perfect relationship, the ideal relationship. What this implies is that you can find the ideal relationship with anyone. It does not have to be one person, right? Which is why a lot of conservative people find it hard to wrap their heads around the fact that young people these days are opting for dating different people and having multiple partners before they settle down, if you want to call it that, although I don't personally agree with that uh, phrase for that matter. In traditional societies, love and marriage, mostly marriage, was based on things like obligation, duty, keeping the family together, right? But then in late modernity, it's a lot more different, precisely because the very social structures right now enable individuals to have things that serve them rather than the other way around, rather than sticking with something just because, right? For example, you buy something, let's say a phone. If it doesn't serve your needs at some point, if you have enough money, you can afford to change it, right? You can upgrade. So this applies for anything: food, the kind of rice you eat, the sambar powder you might use, anything. If it doesn't serve you, if it does not satisfy you, you can choose to abandon it and move on to something better. So this is the condition of late modernity. So before we dive into this whole concept of confluent love, let's look at what late modernity means, also called liquid modernity. What it means is that it's the continuation of modernity, of the modern era. It's not let's say it's not postmodernism, which is a completely different thing. Liquid modernity is characterized by just the very flexible, fluid nature of society, right? This is precisely because there is a lot of information available right now at our very fingertips, the information revolution, and the increasing privatization of services and products. So, this means that precisely because we have a lot of options as given to us by social structures, by economic structures, as consumers, we have a lot of choices. This means that there is no, let's say, brand loyalty to a particular company or whatever. So, if this is the case with the products we consume, at some point, love, the concept of love, also becomes a product that is to be consumed. So my mom is a mediator and a lawyer, and she comes across a lot of divorce cases. And in a lot of those cases, you will see people, man or woman, that doesn't matter, always saying, "Oh, he doesn't take care of my needs. She doesn't take care of me," and this ends up leading to the divorce itself. These are little things that happen, but people just don't pay attention to them, right? And that's how a relationship breaks down. This can be in like love marriages or arranged marriages, it doesn't matter. I bring this up right now, it'll make more sense as we progress through the video. But this is because their current partner, is not serving their needs anymore. And if you've been following what I've been saying up until now, you can apply that same logic here. If love or your lover doesn't serve your needs anymore, the only way out is a breakup, if it's a non-commit, I mean, if it's not like a legal relationship. And divorce is the only way out of a legal commitment like marriage. It's basically about upgrading for something better. In this case, you're married, you don't like it anymore, you can get a divorce and upgrade to the next marriage, or you can just go on without marrying or whatever. I'll dive more into this later on. But back to me. We keep hearing the phrase that, oh, if marriage as an institution is breaking down and if people are not satisfied, they can just divorce is made easier. Maybe the process of divorce itself should be made harder so that people stay together. So that's like forcefully putting people um in the institution of marriage, forcing them to stay together rather than, let's say, giving them an option out. But the point of mediation is that the parties involved can come together and talk about their issues and have their needs be represented. That's why the court orders these mediation sessions, right, with a neutral party. The issue starts when people haven't explored their own boundaries, first of all, let alone their how they function with another person in a relationship, and they end up getting married. They rush into marriages, and maybe it's because of caste issues, or like their parents want them to get married earlier, whatever may be the reason. They rush into the marriage without even considering who they are as a person and who their partner is. And by the time they figure out that this is not working, they are already in a legal institution, that is marriage, and going for a divorce is the only way out. And that's why you like see a lot of people cribbing about, oh, people are divorcing so much and everything. That's because they have not understood themselves first, let alone marriage, which is a huge commitment, right? And now, because of this, marriage is not even seen as a huge commitment anymore, because you can just divorce and walk off. It's not as serious as it was before. Ideally, marriage, monogamous marriage, it's basically a barrier that prevents people from, let's say, upgrading, um, because they have finally found the person. Ideally, right? In an ideal society, this is how things are supposed to work. But we find that in late modernity, this is not the case. A lot of people tend to date before they like finally settle down, if you want to call it that, with that one person. And you go on like any online platform that has incels and Andrew Tate followers. They will usually talk about, oh, but like, what about I am a virgin and I need a virgin woman to marry me. Okay, first of all, they call these women who choose to date as ran through, which is honestly so degrading. And most often than not, the guys who want quote unquote virgin girls are the ones who have already slept around quite a bit. Bruh. So this again ties into like whole patriarchal structures and this whole purity culture. There's a lot to that goes into that, but they have the option to date a lot of people, date a lot of women who cater to their sexual needs, but they would only choose to marry women who are quote unquote virgins. Virginity is a social construct, first of all. Again, that'll go into another tangent altogether. But coming back, when I say love becomes a product to be consumed, this is facilitated by the culture around us, right? Like you have so many movies these days, not these days, always, ever since the inception of media, there has been the concept of love that has been sold to people who would care to consume. Let it be books. That's why you have like a lot of YA romance novels, Twilight, and even like the kind of songs that you listen to, right? It's just, even if it's the written word lyrics, even they tend to create a kind of image, a reference point for us consumers, to the audience, to think about what love should be like, what that person who is going to be in love with you is supposed to make you feel like, what are the things that they are supposed to do for you, what are the things you are supposed to do for them, right? What this means for us is that we tend to create images of the person, the ideal person who is going to fall in love with you, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with this. People have always done this even before media was a thing, books were a thing. People have had, based on other role models they might have seen, other couples, they have always created this list of characteristics that their potential partner should have. Now, what this means for us in late modernity is that, because as I already said, there's a lot of choices, a lot of products, a lot of different services, a lot of companies offering the same services. Similarly, love also gets commodified in a sense, and we have a lot of choices, or rather, the illusion of choice when it comes to dating apps, whole another topic. But anyway, so this does not mean that love, um, as a concept or otherwise, is meaningless these days in the current era, but it does mean that people have a lot of choices because we can move on from things that don't serve us, that don't satisfy our needs. Let it be a job, an app on your phone, the kind of food you eat, the kind of coffee that you like, the shops that you shop at for clothes, anything, the car you drive right now. If you have the means, you can upgrade to something better. So, considering this, relationships become about mutual satisfaction of needs, a mutual give and take, right? Both partners give and receive at the same time. Ideally, it's about equality. Both people are equal in this relationship, unlike in traditional romantic love, where one person is where the relationship works only because one person is somehow dependent on the other person. In late modernity, love is negotiated in a different manner. It is not negotiated from a place of unequal power, but both people have options. That's how the idea of it, at least in theory, operates. Now, however, there is a paradox to this whole thing. So, if confluent love is about all about like mutual growth and mutual give and take, this very characteristic makes modern relationships fragile and unstable. So, even though you negotiate from a place of equality, it also means that there is no permanence in this relationship. This is why dating right now feels very, very unstable. That's why you have situationships, textationships, and whatnot. And again, because people have a lot of options, so they are not willing to commit to one person because there is again illusion of choice. There is someone better for me out there, right? Even if I am going to find someone who is good enough for me, they don't fit the ideal characteristics that I had developed in my head, which is based on the sort of media I consume, the kind of relationships I see around me in real life and in fiction, and also on the sort of social conditioning that we were raised on. Now, I don't mean to say that there is no hope uh, for finding quote unquote real love or the ideal person, but I'm also not saying settle for something less. Of course, look for relationships that help you grow, right? And also are equal in nature, as equal as heterosexual relationships can be, because duh, they mostly are not, because again, they are based on traditional gender norms mostly in a lot of places still. What I'm trying to say instead is that while confluent love affords more freedom, you're not stuck to this one person, right? Like, you are not saying this is the only person for me and there is nobody else in the world who can love me like that, who can take care of me like that. Again, most often in these cases, that guy or that girl will end up being so abusive, but then the other person is just gaslit and manipulated into thinking that this is what love is supposed to feel like, and this constant anxiety around what the other person is doing, what they're thinking about me, attachment issues, is why is how love is supposed to feel like. Again, whole different topic, but anyway, this whole, like, because we are stuck in this framework of what this one person is doing for me, what how loved they make me feel. um, that does not have to be your reality anymore, because while there are illusions of choice, there is also the fact that you have the freedom to walk away and find someone who satisfies your needs. Now, I know, like, it sounds so paradoxical because I can feel it myself right now. But again, I think it's like about finding that fine balance between knowing where to settle, where to adjust, and knowing where not to. So don't settle, don't adjust when that person is abusive. When they're physically abusive, mentally abusive, or manipulative, or they put you down in front of other people, they control you too much, they put down your hobbies, a whole list of things. But at the same time, know where to compromise, and don't lose out on someone who could actually help you grow into a better person, and both of you can grow together and build a life that is, hopefully by the time you're, let's say, 70 or 80, you're glad that you spent your time on earth here with that person, right? So it's about finding that perfect balance. Again, this differs on a case by case basis. It One size does not fit all ever. What someone might be okay compromising with is something non-negotiable for someone else. So again, depends on personal boundaries, which of course I feel like you will know what your boundaries are only if you negotiate love with, let's say, different people. And I'm not implying, I don't know, it might work for some people, it doesn't for me. But I'm not implying just sexual experimentation. I'm also saying, just know how you feel existing with the other person. So it doesn't have to be about like doing something. How do you feel when you're just sitting in silence with them? Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel awkward? Does it feel like a burden to not talk while you both of you are in the same space? I feel like it's more of a question of how comfortable you can be with them in uncomfortable situations. Hope that makes sense. While love in liquid modernity is quite free, it's also very fragile, and it totally is based on whether the people involved in the relationship are mature enough to handle the issues that come in the relationship, that crop up in the relationship, and they know what their own boundaries are and what they will and will not tolerate. Hope that helped. Bye.